Hello and welcome to Starting Points, where one thing leads to another. Before I start on the books, I wanted to show you this. I think the only way I can show it is to maybe hold it down low enough that it might show you that there is been done, and there is a missing piece. It's called the letter P, and I found this box which is just perfect in terms of showing the length of that rectangle. Now, these are the 12 pentomino pieces that I mentioned last time, and you could create 12 times 5 pentomino, 5 piece squares. You could create a rectangle of 60 with that, which would be just solid red in this case. But you could also create a 13 by 5 rectangle, which would have 5 squares that weren't covered, and they could be in the shape of one of the pentominoes. And so in this case, I found this. In the previous one we had a letter Z, which was right in the middle, and I thought, well, will they all be in the middle? Obviously not. This one shares some of the outside of this rectangle. So, on to the books. The books, I'm going to start with Alice's Adventures Underground by Lewis Carroll. Now, this is a facsimile of the 1864 manuscript, introduction by Martin Gardner. Thinking, 1864, the Civil War is going on, and here in England, Lewis Carroll has written this story about the adventures underground, Alice's Adventures Underground. And Dover Publications has made this book available. It's got all the writing and all the pictures done by Lewis Carroll. So he was drawing the original pictures, and his writing is sort of printing with a slight slope to it. That slope of cursive writing, but it's all really clear and easy to read, and it's fascinating. Now, how did this get published? How did we get to see this? Well, there's an introduction by Martin Gardner, and Martin Gardner was the moving force behind making this book, this facsimile, giving you some idea of the inspiration. It was a Christmas gift for a friend, and but there's an adventure involving the manuscript. Lewis Carroll was concerned about it being lost by stolen. It was valuable, and but more valuable in that it wasn't going to be easy for him to recreate it, and that's an adventure in its own. Now, what's this? Oh, this is a chart. I made a chart of this solution, and here's the piece that is duplicated twice. Here it is here in this corner, and here it is as a blank space. And I'm going to do that for all of them as I do them. I'm not going to introduce it and show you the results all the time, but for my own benefit, I'm going to, because once I take this apart, putting it back together would be a challenge once again. So, Alice, a Nursery Alice in full color by Lewis Carroll. So, a book was made, transformed into something for younger children to read. And his adaptation of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland for young readers, containing 20 colored enlargements of Tenniel's illustrations with a new introduction by Martin Gardner. Yes, you guessed it. So here's this. You can see that it's typefaced and some of the color drawings. Lewis Carroll's The Wasp in a Wig, a suppressed episode of Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There, with a preface, introduction, and notes by Martin Gardner. And it's fascinating as well. I got this just in to sort of show you that here's the typed story, and here's the footnotes and notes that Martin Gardner is adding. Is that on every page? No, much less on many of the pages, but still a lot of work went into doing that. And here's Martin Gardner's, has got this published as well, based on Lewis Carroll's nonsense poems, The Hunting of the Snark and Jabberwocky, with the original illustrations by Henry Holliday and Sir John Tenniel. So what he's done is he's made a puzzle book. And so you start in with these poems being copied out, and teasers and questions, and everything gets solved in the end. But there's certainly some great things that Martin found that he could make questions out of, teasers. And so I just, I thought how neat it was. There's and there's answers at the back. But that again was keeping these poems alive and looking at some of the complexities that were in those poems, people's names being spelled out as the first letter, things like that. And just so now these Sam Lloyd mathematical puzzles were intended to be puzzles. These weren't necessarily intended to be puzzled, but Martin Gardner found a lot of neat things in them that the normal reader would have not been unaware of. But Sam's things were meant to be puzzles, and this was volume 1, this is volume 2, and there's things in there that have playoffs on pentominoes, quite a few of those kinds of problems where the answers are, sometimes the answers are in written form, sometimes they're just the three shapes, and it's to show the answer of those puzzle pieces that look to me to be very much like pentominoes. The second book has likewise. These were published by Dover Publications, and it was Dover Publications that published the Nursery Alice and Alice's Adventures Underground. So they were keen for that sort of things. I don't think our culture, well, I'm wrong about that. I mean, there's crosswords that appear in newspapers. There's various wordles and other with just letters and words, but things that might involve shapes. Well, there's pentominoes, riddles of the Sphinx, and other mathematical puzzle tales, Martin Gardner. And so several of them had to deal with number 6 is around the solar system, and to make movements using buttons or checkers or to these different places, and planets and the moon, puzzles which have this is a trinominal, just 3 pieces with another one, and the shapes that one could make with those, fitting them, those 2 pieces with 3 squares, that sort of a little bit of an L shape, the different shapes that you could make with it. Or there's one about B-land, and in that one, Alice in B-land, the puzzle involves the hexagonal shape of the honeycomb, and there's of course answers in the back, and I think there's answers to the honeycomb bee one in the back. I don't have my fingers on it, but it's here. Quite interesting. And the last book hasn't anything to do with puzzles like that. Martin Gardner was interested in baseball, and he had at least one son who was interested as well. And he put together an annotated Casey at the bat in book form. And Grantland Rice has written things in it. Here's E.L. Thayer, 1863. So he was actually born during the U.S. Civil War, the 1940. Annotated collection of ballads about the mighty Casey with an introduction and notes by Martin Gardner. And so it's well, it's quite fascinating and a story and a puzzle of how this came to be, and how this captured people. Grantland Rice, Mudville's Fate, plays on the poem. He'd never heard of Casey. Casey at the plate, author unknown. The man who fanned Casey. Cool Casey at the bat, by the editors of Mad. And then a great write-up at the end by Martin. So a lot of research and work went into this, and now baseball's a topic that interests me. Is sports in general, sports writing. I once thought I would do an anthology on sports writing, but I'm going to have things on skating and of course walking, running will come into these videos. But I'll do baseball and basketball, great reads. There certainly are some great ones out there. Well, thanks for joining me. Until next time, bye for now.